What's going on, y'all? We are back again with another live stream Monday. It's not a victory Monday, but you could honestly say it is. I mean, if you've been living under a rock, you don't know that the GOAT is back. He's unretired, retired, unretired. He's back in a Tampa Bay uniform, I'm going to say that a second time for those who thought he was going somewhere else. But a lot of happy fans all over. I know I'm happy. I think Robert's happy in there, but he sees also another path as well. But we'll talk about that as well. But as you can see, it's not just me, Mark Ramirez. I'm not joined by Michael Pless. I'm joined by Robert Green of Outside Leverage. And Robert, how do you feel? Tom Brady is back. It sounds like the whole band wants to get back together. What are your opinions on all this? What's going on?
No, man, I'm very happy on the front that one of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers issues or holes have been somewhat filled. Yeah. I know there was a big question about who would come in and take over for the giant hole that Tom Brady left behind when he full retired a month and 2 weeks ago. People were being sold on the likes of Blaine Gabbert. People were being sold on the likes of Ryan Fitzpatrick, a returning Jameis Winston. Literally, people were being sold on so many entities coming in and being able to take the place of a Tom Brady. And, thank God that's not the case one way or another, whether it was, Kyle Trask or someone else, anybody but, something of the past. Tom Brady came back. Actually, never left. He never really retired. But Tom Brady came back a day or so ago. I'm a Bucs fan, so obviously I'm happy we have a good quarterback, somebody who's competent, under center for the next season, and quarterback isn't a concern. I don't know how any Bucs fan can not be, good with that. You don't have to be ecstatic about it. I understand not being, jumping for joy about it, what have you, but I don't know how you can be a Bucs fan and not be happy to know that you're not concerned about your quarterback position.
I mean, he's the GOAT. There's a reason why he has that nickname. You're going after some unfinished business, as you saw in that little tweet over here.
Yeah.
Go back over there. Unfinished business. Let's freaking go. 23rd season. The dude's on a mission. I saw some posts on Twitter saying how every time he loses in the playoffs the next year, he wins a championship.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure every Buccaneer fan would pretty much like that. Like, here it is, and announces he's coming out of retirement. But which is funny, he didn't really sign the papers. He was just there 41 days. 41 days. Enough of this shit. One more year, at least one more year.
1.5 months, like 1 month, 14 days. And he was like, yeah, this fatherhood shit is boo. this is for the birds, man. No, kidding. I mean, nobody wants to nobody wants to make the assumption he doesn't have a happy life and a happy family life and nothing like that. But it was just fun. Like he never really retired. Yeah. He didn't miss a training camp. He didn't miss a game that was supposed to be played. He missed nothing. He just basically bought himself, like a franchise tag. He just bought himself some more time until he made a decision.
Let's put it this way. Gronk's probably more out of shape right now than Tom Brady is. He stays in the same diet. Gronk's probably partying, drinking, probably lost like 10 pounds of muscle already.
I don't know. Did you see him at there was video at the Strawberry Festival in Plant City?
Yeah.
Just last night.
He's having fun. I mean, he's in party mode. Why bother getting into playing shape? Like, Brady's didn't lose anything. And then again, this guy is at the elite level. Literally should have been MVP of the league last year, but okay, I guess we're not Green Bay fan base. So Tom Brady is still playing at an elite high level. He has all of his at least two big weapons and Godwin and Evans under contract. You would think Gronk's gonna follow suit, but there couldn't be a better position for us to be in right now than with him at quarterback. I know some of the people were like, oh, let's get Trask his opportunity. There's no better opportunity than to sit one more time and hopefully win that second job behind Brady, learn it one-on-one with him, get the system under your feet, I guess, and then progress that way. I think this is a perfect situation all across the board for now and for the future.
Yeah, but two things I kind of want to touch on, man. It's a question I kind of want to get your opinion on. Let's start with the Gronkowski deal. Gronkowski, obviously, he's a free agent, right? So this isn't a continuation of his contract from last season. He played out that contract. with the Bucs situation right now in the draft and in free agency and the cap that we're trying to work on, do you feel it being like a mandatory deal to get Gronkowski back under contract or for like a high amount for like another 10 or 12 million, the way he was in the past 2 seasons that he played in Tampa? I mean, is that something you feel like is a mandatory thing just to appease Tom Brady and be like, hey, I can't work without him? Do you see that being the case? Do you see them being an absolute priority for the Bucs going forward for the free agency?
I don't think the number value really matters. I think based on look at the numbers you just saw. I mean, Ryan Jensen's back, Carlton Davis is back, Chris Godwin got the franchise tag. All these huge numbers, and we keep hearing we're right at the cap, we're right at the cap. But somehow we keep finding ways to manipulate the market, manipulate the contracts. Talking to Vita Vea already trimmed off almost 8 million. I think he's going to be back no matter what. I honestly, genuinely think that. Brady's his guy. He said he'd never play for another quarterback. I think just that entirely is probably the reasoning. The number of how much he gets, I don't know. I guess it matters to Antonio Brown, yeah, but actually the player himself, I don't know. Like Sue and Gronk, I thought they got two totally big numbers that they shouldn't have gotten that were just out of range to me, but still they fit it in the cap and they kind of put it in an incentive based kind of thing. So do I really know what number he's going to get? I wouldn't say give him 10 million like you did. But I mean, like Plus always says that the cap is like it's fake. I mean, they literally find ways to fit it in there.
Yeah, people have fully bought into that's an imaginary. The cap is an imaginary number. You can there's a way to manipulate it to no end. Basically, is the way how people feel, especially with the success that Mike Greenberg has had. You know, not just manipulating the cap, but he's been. I don't even want to say he's been manipulating the cap. He's been managing the cap as well as anybody can imagine, and he had been doing pretty smart moves. I think until maybe the last 2 seasons. I think that they kind of made some caveats. There's been some caveats being made to the way that he had done things in the past to kind of make some of the stuff happen. Obviously, with the success the Bucs have had in the last 2 seasons, you wonder whether or not it was been those moves and those getting out of the frugal state of mind that we've been in and literally gone in even harder than before with the whole win now deal. You wonder if that was the case.
Said it there, the win now.
Yeah, which I've never been a fan of, and I'm still not a fan of. I've written about it, talked about it, and so forth. I don't like hedging the future on the present when you have a window of success, because what I know I want as a Bucs fan, as a sports fan in general, what I want is sustained success. That's not a perfect season. It's not a Super Bowl every year, but it definitely should be. I definitely want one of those teams that are in the playoffs every season and ready to make a push. That's how I feel. Like I don't expect my team to go down up and down the field and score every single time. I understand things happen. I understand that's the way football works. But I want to be able to see the team move the ball and progress consistently and make things happen. That's how I feel like I want every season to go. I want to see the Bucs be in contention. I want to see the Bucs making things happen. I don't want hey, we got a Super Bowl. Now I'm good for the next 17 years like it happened the last time. Yeah. Then we get back into it and like, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I've honestly seen people say stuff like that. And I'm like, yo, I've almost thrown my laptop out the window looking at silly comments like that. I mean, everybody has an opinion and they got the right to have it. But as a fan, for me as a Bucs fan, that's not what we want. Like, we want to be like the Steelers. We want to be like Green Bay. We want to be like New England. We want to be a fan base like that where we have something that's been built and has been, continued. That's what we want. And on that note, again, the other question I wanted to ask you about hedging the future and not betting on everything today and at the risk of the future. The other question was about Kyle Trask. Do we see Kyle Trask take that number 2 spot as a quarterback? Last year, he was behind Blaine Gabbert. I know myself as a fan. Worst case scenario was seeing Blaine Gabbert out on that field. I did not want to see it if the game was competitive. I actually didn't want to see it when it was in a blowout. I wanted to see the young guy get in there and get his feet wet. Do you think Kyle Trask actually does he get that opportunity to step in and be the number 2 guy, learn, and possibly get his feet in the fire this season while Tom Brady is playing his last of his contract?
The short answer, I'm going to say is yeah. But the long answer is I think he's going to get the opportunity to compete. I guarantee they probably would sign back Gabbert, but I'm hoping it's a competition where Trask can show that he is the better guy. He knows the system. He's got his legs under him. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't have to have uh, Blaine Gabbert as a coach on the sideline helping you out no more. And like you just said, you didn't want to see him. There's no future of that. I'd rather see the guy that you did draft for your future, and that adds to Jason Light and Mike Greenberg and all these guys formulating a successful formula for the future, like you're concerned about. Not just contracts, but having the talent coming up after those guys are going to leave. That's something back in the day we didn't have that. We just kept
Right.
signing older guys, older guys, older guys, and we never had an influx of young talent. We have a shit ton of that nowadays. Where, yeah, in some areas we're concerned, like where's the pass rushers or where's where's the secondary to come in and flex if Carlton Davis did leave, and that's a huge one we would want to talk about later. But I think Trask should show it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Kyle Trask based off his Florida stuff, but I just honestly think he mentality wise, mental capacity of understanding an offense, this is his game. Like deep ball, accuracy, perfect. He doesn't have a cannon, no, but
Yeah.
he knows how to place this damn ball, and I think he will show that this year.
Yeah, I've watched Kyle Trask as an SEC guy. Like I've watched him as a college football guy in general. I watch a lot of football, pretty much based on the divisions and so forth. But I do pay attention a great deal to the SEC. But I always check out the Florida and the Florida State. Always check out their quarterbacks to see which one is going to break the curse, because they have like terrible history when it comes to their quarterbacks going into the league in the last 10 years or so, it felt like. So always paid attention to him. But Kyle Trask is Kyle Trask, man. I just think that it shouldn't be a competition. I don't think Blaine Gabbert needs to be there as a coach. And if he is a coach, then take him off the active roster. What sense does it make to put him in the active roster if he's just there to be coaching people up and be a support guy? As of today, even with Kyle Trask not playing a single game in the regular season, he has still played more significant snaps and more important games. He's played more of them in the last 3-4 years than Blaine Gabbert has. Like he could go back to college. He played more important games and against tougher competition than Blaine Gabbert has. Blaine Gabbert, I think the last time I checked, I think he's thrown 3 more touchdowns than he has interceptions in his 10-year career. Like that's ridiculous. That's crazy as hell. I don't know how somebody can push that narrative that, hey, experience matters. Experience doesn't matter. Good experience matters. I don't care what Bruce Arians tell you. Like I don't care how long you've been doing something. If you haven't been doing it well, or more importantly, if you've been doing it badly, that should not count as experience, quote unquote. Like that's good experience matters more than experience, in
We
my
learned
opinion.
that we learned that 3 years ago when Winston was here for 5 years. A whole
Yeah.
lot of experience. He kept doing the same thing over and over. How much can you teach out of that? Almost like the same thing of Derek Carr, that his window to throwing the ball, he just got gun shy. He got sacked so many times. Maybe this is stuff you can't just ingrain out of a guy. It's stuck in them. But I mean, that's why I'm a big fan of Trash, and I think he's going to be the one that gets it. But let's keep going down the road. Let's
Yeah.
go look at the other guys we signed and we have on the current roster. So going back to here, we franchise tag Chris Godwin, so he's on the roster. Hopefully, they can get an extended contract for him as well. Talking about that longevity of the franchise, that'd be a huge piece to put next to Evans for years to come. Stinney's re-signed. I mean, Plus texted me the other day when it was just Stinney. He's like, "We won the offseason." Like, not even to laugh out loud, just straightforward. We won the offseason. I was like, "Oh, damn, Plus. Think that highly of him."
Hey
But
man, he's important. He's an important piece, man. I mean, it's important to be able to have a guy that can step, he can come off the bench and come in and be stable. I mean, he wasn't great, but he came in and he proved he wasn't a liability, and that's extremely important for people to understand that as long as you're not a liability, you're a pretty good asset, especially on the offensive line.
yeah, he's not Caleb Beninock, and we lost Alex Kappa, so he probably is a front runner to kind of fill in that spot. He played in the Super Bowl in that spot. and he did a pretty serviceable job. So I give him that. That's experience, good experience too.
It is good experience. I
No,
mean, it's a learning experience.
right? And then
Yeah,
we got finally Ryan Jensen back immediately after hearing Tom Brady got signed, 3-year, $39 million deal, includes 23 million guaranteed. This is where cap is a myth kind of things going on. Then you get Carlton Davis back. I don't know how the hell this happened. 3-year, $45 million deal, includes 30 million in guarantees. So let's talk about these 2 points. So let's talk about the O-line first because Brady's back. We all know he's not a statue. He can move around the pocket a little bit just based
yeah,
off of pocket mobility, but I'm not talking about a runner. But the biggest thing he needs to have is the guys in front of him blocking well. I mean, the outside, he can step up, but if he can't step up because your guards are playing like ass,
yeah,
he
yeah.
can't really deliver a ball. So, how big is losing Kappa to you? And Jensen getting back is humongous. And do you think Hainsey can just step in right there, left guard, right guard, wherever City doesn't go? Because that's the current roster. That's what you're looking at right now.
I think first and foremost, I want to just point out how much of a success story that Alex Kappa actually was in
Yeah.
Tampa. Alex Kappa came in as a third round pick. He came in as a third round pick at a lower ranked school that a lot of cats didn't pay attention to, much like Ali Marpet. He came in. He didn't play. I think he played less than 120 snaps. I think it was 117 snaps as a rookie. Came in, and then he that was on the dirt cutter, and then he started playing in his second season, and again, he just showed that he wasn't a liability. Showed he wasn't a liability, and he got the value that he got over the next 3 years. That's what you want to see with all of your draft picks. That's what you want to see, no matter what round you get in. First, second, third, and fourth. You can't throw picks away. Alex Kappa, I believe, with his signing, the way that it's gone so far, depending on what the Bucs sign in free agency, which we don't think is going to be a whole lot. I think we may be in line of getting a comp pick, like a fifth round comp pick for him. So I mean that's important. That's the value of building up players in the draft and then letting them go off and get their true value, or their bigger value when it comes to the free agency side of it. As far as who can replace him, we've got Hainsey, our third round pick from last season. He could step in and he can have a similar role. He could come in and have a similar projection. Again, we talked about Stenny. Stenny played. He has experience. He has that look, and he can be a lot better than what we've seen. It's just going to take some time for him to get some more. It's just going to take him some more playing time and to gel in and actually take over that role if it's given to him, or if that opportunity is given to him. And that's what you're looking forward to. So you have, in this case, you have competition possibly between two young, good players, one with a little bit of experience and one with none. Stenny can step in. We've seen it. He can possibly get better. And that's what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at, and that's what you're looking for. So the competition between the two of them, and then the versatility of Hainsey to back up Ryan Jensen if something were to happen to him. I mean, you're in a good spot there, but you do want to see competition between those two, and I think both of those guys can step in and fight for Kappa's old position at right guard.
Yeah, I mean, really good points all around. Also wanted to add this too. G Vegas said applaud Kappa getting paid. He does get to block for Burrow now. Not bad for him. Yeah, Burrow needed it. I'll say that.
Right.
But again, it's a credit to Jason Light and his staff doing their job, literally doing their job, scouting guys from small schools, like you mentioned. And you just saw him mature over and over, and you literally nailed it with his snap count. I couldn't believe you nailed that one.
Was it
Yeah,
was it 117 his first year? 104.
I mean, just to be that damn close, that's like 97, 98%. Come on now.
Hey, listen, I swear to you, I apologize, I'm cutting you off, but I swear to you, I ended up having this argument with a fellow Bucs fan, or so I thought, fellow Bucs fan, but we were talking about Alex Kappa at the end of that season, and he was like, he's like he don't have it. Like, you can see it. I'm like, dude, he literally played damn near 20% of the snaps. Like, how do you know he doesn't have it? Like, he was being rotated. Remember, he was coming in and he was rotating with I forget who it was. I don't know if it was Sweezy or who, but he came in and he was rotating. So and that's an awkward thing to do, because on the offensive line, obviously, cohesiveness is key. Everybody needs to know what the other guy's doing and how they're doing it, and just get familiar with each other and the guys around you. Like, that is choreography on the offensive line, and it's chaos on the defensive line. So you have to have that you have to have that rotation as far as playing with each other. You can't just go in and out and place guys, depending on what snap it is on the offensive line. But yeah, I mean, that's just a super important thing that people just have to realize. Like, you can't just look at individual talent on the offensive line. Like, no individual one talent is going to save you, and hopefully no one liability. Hopefully nobody's a liability, because that probably will kill you. And Alex Cappa proved that he was not a liability literally as soon as he got in and got a regular rotation.
He's a guy that just got better throughout his career here. I mean, he was drafted as a right tackle, gets moved over to guard. Same situation as Hainsey. He was a right tackle at Notre Dame, gets moved over to guard, center, trying to multi-use player, make him more options of where he can find time on the field. And as of right now, he's a starter. And does he change his body like Kappa too? Because Kappa was a lanky, not lanky as in arms, but just like his body weight was more in his stomach.
He was weird. Yeah, he had a weird shape. He was funny. Right. He looked like a Sasquatch. He had a pretty. He looked like a monster though, man. I remember the first time I saw him at training camp, and I was like, "Who the hell?"
That's why.
Yeah,
big. Like he went from a weird, skinny, lanky thing on his arms and legs to now a beefcake.
Yeah,
being able to absorb bigger defensive tackles, and I'm hoping we see the same from Hainsey. That's how I'm kind of leveraging over to. Like, he was undersized, to be honest. Like, some of the times he would just get bullied inside. Hopefully, put on 10 pounds of weight, of just muscle, just mass to absorb some of these bigger hits that he's going to be taking. And I mean, you got Notre Dame under your belt, but I mean, this is the NFL.
Hey, I'll be honest with you, man. Notre Dame. Notre Dame was one of those teams that, as a kid, I used to watch. I used to watch like by divisions. When I was growing up, I used to watch like the Notre Dames and the Penn States, Ohio States, and those guys, and Michigan specifically, because of their offensive lines. Like, those cats have historically just had like guys who just done well on their offensive line. No matter what else was going on, like, their offensive lines were solid. They always had a few players who could just. Who were just mean, and they just knew how to play on the offensive line. I mean, I hope Bucs fans give this man his time to, give his time to develop. I mean, obviously he didn't play last season, and if he plays this season, he's going to get judged harshly just because of the, the 3 years experience that came before him when it comes to Kappa, and also because of the guy he's blocking. Like, everybody expect him to come in and be, just be an elite offensive lineman, because, that's what they think Tom Brady deserves and everything else. But I mean, he needs to play, and he needs to get experience. You can't get better playing football by being on the sideline. That's not how it works.
Yeah, so I mean, this is some of the comments over here. Like, some people are like, I applaud Kappa. Eder 17 is like, Kappa is the most replaceable piece on the O-line, won't be missed.
I don't agree with that.
You're gonna miss him. I'm gonna say that he got better throughout the years. Like I
mentioned, he was the least experienced 100%. He was probably the least fan favorite 100%. But to say that it just, I apologize. I take that back. That was actually a correct assessment. It just sounded rude, or it just read like a rude statement. But it is like he was the most replaceable. Like, it just sounds rude to say it, but when you look at Tristan Wirfs and the guys who was playing around him, Ryan Jensen, Marpet, and Donovan Smith, he was the least experienced. Well, not the least experienced, but he was probably the least talented. But he definitely made up for it in his effort.
And then Farouk Wab says Brady makes the O-line better. His ability to read the defense, get rid of the ball so quickly helps them tremendously. I agree with that, but it's something we kind of touched on. Like, guards pushing up in your face, that's usually what Brady's bread and butter is, stepping up in the pocket.
Yeah.
If you have two inexperienced guys, or just lack thereof talent guys, this is something that concerns me. But do you think we would draft one, sign a veteran? Do you think that's in the cards, or do you think they kind of run with what they got right now?
For the offensive lineman?
Yes, sir.
For offensive lineman, I can't see them. I can't see the Bucs. Well, just for me, I couldn't justify drafting another offensive lineman within the first 4 rounds. The way that the holds are shaping up for the Bucs. Because I have to go to the other side of the ball and talk about what's missing there. What's missing there, you have, with the Bucs playing a 3-4 defense, you only have one starter signed. That's Vita Vea. I don't want to see Vita Vea get the Gerald McCoy treatment, where he gets he's like the he's like the big guy, and then everybody else around him is just kind of whatever. We start taking a bunch of old veterans who are rotational players and trying to make them starters or play at a starter level when they've all been when they've just come off of being like rotational players. We have a guy like that. We have a guy like that with William Golston. William Golston was a starter level player, and one of our biggest success stories as far as a Buccaneer, coming from being a 4th round pick who was nothing but a run stopper. And then he since he's been there, all he's done is won a second contract, deservedly got it, and then got better from there. He's a pass rusher now. He can move the pocket and stuff like that. But there should be someone else. There should be younger talent that should be drafted this year to be able to help a Vita Vea. So you're looking at that. You're looking at the cornerbacks position, because we have 2 guys who are going to be due for big contracts or due for second contracts next year, in the likes of Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean. So you need to find a player that can possibly replace the 2 of those guys, because you and I have had these conversations before in a private chat via Twitter for the last 2 years or so. And one of my favorite quotes, or one of my favorite comments I'm always telling you guys, is you can't plant a tree the day you need shade. We are coming up on that day where we need shade. We were looking at it before Carlton Davis got resigned, and it freaked me out. I'm so glad that move got made, again, provided he signs the contract. But next season, you got guys like Sean Murphy-Bunting. I think Cockrell is up for another contract, or to be released after this contract. And Jamel Dean. And again, those were our young players who developed or at least had a good season a couple years ago. And whatever. And last season was like one of those seasons that could have solidified and justified them getting a big contract next year. But it didn't really happen, partially because of Sean Murphy-Bunting being injured. And then Jamel Dean was one of the toughest guys on the roster last year, because he got hurt every single game, and then he would come out and then go back in. But one of those guys may end up leaving next year, the following year. So you got to have somebody in place that can learn the system and be able to step in when those guys go. So as far as the offensive line goes, I would put that on the lower level of priority when it comes to drafting. You can definitely sign like a veteran for a backup position, but I would not be looking at, as a fan, I would not want to see them draft an offensive lineman within the first 4 rounds.
First 4? Damn. I mean,
Give me a defensive line, give me a cornerback, give me another defensive lineman, and give me a possible safety in case something dumb happens.
Like the last play of the season.
Oh God, yeah, that's so bad. Again, that's a good thing too. I mean, well, not a good thing that happened, but Mike Edwards. We were talking about the possibility of Mike Edwards stepping in and taking over in case Jordan Whitehead walks away. Yeah. Again, people completely disregarded the good work of Carlton Davis, and they didn't. And before the deal got presented that he was going to sign back, was saying he wasn't worth it. I 100% disagree, and I'm 100% disagreeing with anybody who says the same thing about Jordan Whitehead. Jordan Whitehead has been a monster for the Buccaneers. He's been a monster when it comes to pass breakups. He's been a monster when it comes to causing turnovers. This dude has developed and played. He's played his ass off. Like I want to see him back. I understand if it doesn't happen, but he is one player. He's one of those players again with Carlton Davis. I felt like were must-haves as far as re-signing back.
I mean, yeah. So that's the whole other thing. So everyone's happy with Tom Brady. We got our guy. We franchise Godwin, and then I honestly thought, like you, Carlton Davis is gone. There's no way we're going to be able to afford the guy.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible. And then I saw old Ian Rappaport. I was like, holy shit, how the hell did this happen?
Yeah.
Let's talk about his value. I mean, some Buck fans, we always call him CB1. I don't know if they just don't care to look. They just think our secondary is just dirt half the time. It's a team game, first of all. If you're not getting pressure in, your secondary players have to cover a lot longer. That's why my biggest need in the offseason is pass rushers, get after quarterback, help out your secondary. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, if you look at your secondary, your corners alone, Carlton Davis is head and shoulders over everyone.
Yeah.
Mel Dean is good at some things. SMB, they've been using him everywhere, and he just doesn't. He's not good at one thing. He's good at moving around, but he's not
Mhm.
really can't depend on him in one specific spot, which
Right.
is sad. And then he's injured a lot.
Yeah.
Disabilities, availability. So, and then after that, it just dies down. Ross Cockrell, way on. We need more talent in that room, to be honest. Because
One
you
hundred percent, man. And again, you can't just replace your cornerback one. Like that's just
know,
because what's the other option? Is going out and overpaying another free agent, somebody else's guy that they let go, was to pay him to come in and be take over Carlton Davis' spot. Um, Obviously, Carlton Davis has flaws. He's imperfect. Something I tweeted a couple days ago was that since he came into the league, there's only four of the players who's had more pass breakups than him.
yeah.
I mean, and that's with him missing 14 games. I think if you want to look at something that's negative about him, well, let's look at the touchdowns that he's been associated with. I think he's given up 20. He's given up 20 touchdowns. That's the same thing as Marshawn Lattimore, another high paid player who made it to a second contract. Like nobody who put on the performance that Carlton Davis has since the time he's coming to the league has not signed a second contract, with the exception of James Bradbury. James Bradbury left Charlotte. I'm sorry, left. Yeah, he left the Carolina Panthers and went to the Giants after putting on the performance that he had done as a high end cornerback. Um, but yeah, man, if you don't have, I mean, having first and foremost, let's start from the front where the defense actually starts. Having a player like Vita Vea in a solid defensive line, it's not just Vita Vea, but when you have a solid defensive line, that kind of takes away from the notion that you need to have a bunch of superstars in your defensive back in the secondary. But the fact that you do have a player like Carlton Davis, you can't just give that away because Carlton Davis is literally the only player on that roster who could have been a cornerback number one. Sean Murphy Bunting, he's a good player, but we still got questions about him going into his last contract. We still don't know if what we saw from him during the playoffs when he had that great stretch, probably the best stretch of all the players on the Bucs defense as an individual. We don't know if that's the guy that's going to come into the next season, or is the guy that we've been seeing, prior to that, as well as what we saw last season. Again, it's almost unfair to judge him how he went last season because he had to come off an injury after week one, and he spent so much time rehabbing. And players just don't come back 100% after rehab. I don't care who they are. These are human beings. These are real cats who go through real stuff. Even on the rehab, you still have to play in order to get back into playing shape and being where you need to be. Jamel Dean, as you said, Jamel Dean has shortcomings too. Jamel Dean is one of the most athletic people on the secondary. However, he doesn't have the agility to stick with most the top wide receivers. Like he can keep up with them in speed. He can catch up with them after they blow past him. But you don't have the hip, you don't have the swivel to stay in front of them. Like he's gonna get shaken. He's gonna get shook. He can recover, but it's a dangerous deal. He still has to develop that skill to turn around and get his head towards the ball and pass, and break up some of these long passes that he's giving up.
I mean, that's no knock on Dean. It's just noticing
Yeah,
the deficiencies in a player. I mean,
yeah,
make up
because he's had a lot of pass breakups as
yeah,
well.
yeah. I mean, that's very similar, but he's a one cut and go. If you do a double move, usually he's not going to recover from that. And
Yeah,
what helps with that? A better pass rush. That kind of adds to our flavor of the show. And
yeah.
I mean, Vita Vea is one thing, and you're trying to use blitzes off of it and A gap blitzes from Devin White, Levante. Yeah, that helps. But if you have a front four that can just dominate like they did in the Super Bowl, yes, it was against a lesser offensive line, but still, JPP was at a whole other level. I feel like JPP went down a level, and actually, even people up here in the chat, where is this? I hope I can find this because they were wanting one player. This is I wanted Chandler Jones to come in as a one cheap year deal. I don't know what cheap year is for Chandler
But
Jones, but
Chandler Jones ain't did nothing but make money in the
right.
NFL. I don't know
And
where
here's
it's
all
coming from.
Chandler Jones, even if it means letting Sue and JPP walk, Jones will have a bigger impact than those. I agree. Getting Chandler Jones would be a home run shot, and that's talking about your win now opportunities. That would be a win now move. But if it's a 1 year
Yeah,
deal and you know that Gronk and Brady are gone the year after, maybe it's a push because all that money gets off the books. But I don't know. But I mean, that would be literally a home run to me. But to me, you still got to build through the draft in that fashion. Barrett got some money from it. Does JTS build and move forward even more? Does he progress? Which I hope. I mean, he has the ability, every athletic ability possible. Does he grow in the system? Do they push JPP out? Do you want JPP back? That's a good question. You want him back?
Well, we saw last season JPP. That's probably the first time I ever called him JPP. I usually call him Pierre Paul. That's the first time I've seen Pierre Paul not look like himself. And sure enough, he was injured. He was injured to a point where for the first time ever, he actually let it know that he was in discomfort.
Yeah.
This cat broke his neck. Think about this. This cat broke his
Yeah.
damn neck a season or so ago. And he was like, hey, I'll be all right. I'll be back. This cat had a torn rotator cuff. He had a torn rotator cuff, and he went social with him and was talking about how much of a disruption it had been for him. So I mean, he could actually come back as far as being an impactful player. It just depends on the money. Like I love him, what he's been for Tampa. He has been everything that you can possibly want. The dude has been an impact on the field. He's been exciting to watch. He's been a great mentor as far as having a winning attitude for young cats. And he's just been a consummate pro, and he's been a fighter the entire time. I couldn't ask for more as a Bucs fan. Like, I love what he's done. When we're talking about looking forward, him coming back from this injury, and the cost that it may take the team in order to get him back, I don't know that that's the way to go. I feel like unless he comes on some quote unquote cheap deal, which I don't even know what cheap would even mean. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see any player, no matter who they are, come in at the cost of actually building this team going forward. I know we need help with the pass rush. I would almost say, develop your players so we're not renting players like we've been doing in previous years. Like I just don't want to see that anymore. Like it's a better way. There's a better way to do it. I mean, and we started with the best. We started with the best thing you could do with having a dominant defensive player like Vita Vea. Get him some guys next to him in that 3-4 defense. And basically, I'm looking at 3 starter level players. Like, even that's with the possible inclusion of William Golston. Like, get 3 more guys, young cats, at least 2 more young guys who could come in and be starter level, and somebody who can rest Vita Vea for a play or two, another player that has some kind of a higher ceiling, somebody that you can develop and play. But I don't want to see this rental of guys for this win now thing. Like, it is. I don't think it's worth it. Like, I just don't.
Well, one thing we talked about before was when you do these rental things, you're slowing down the potential of the younger guys are behind them. You're slowing down their rate as they get better. Like the Scotty Miller situation.
Scotty Miller. I'm sorry I cut you off. I'm about to get so livid with this point. I'm glad you brought it up, because I've brought this up literally since not just last year, but the previous year with the Antonio Brown signing. And my God, I just had to realize I'm not on my own podcast because I'm about to use some really colorful language. But I hated that signing strictly for the fact that it took away from the development of Tyler Johnson. We shouldn't even be talking about Tyler Johnson, whether or not he's good enough to be on the roster. This dude literally has the same skill set as Chris Godwin, and he's gotten his first and his second year completely abbreviated because of having Antonio Brown and forcing him the damn ball. And I'm like, you can't do that to a player and then expect him to be a superstar in that third year. Like, you completely cut their knees from under them, or you completely cut their legs from under them with their development. And you can't just step in and be like, well, he's a pro, he has to make these plays. Nobody got better by not playing. And you can't just have a guy out there who's selective and short-listed when it comes to plays, and then expect him to make a superstar play in that short amount of plays and opportunities that they get. The dude had 25 targets after Chris Godwin went down. 25 targets after Chris Godwin down, which I believe was week 8. No, what was that? Damn it, I forget which week Chris Godwin went out. But yeah, 25 targets is what that man got. Antonio Brown got 17 targets the week that he actually came in and signed a damn contract in fucking Tampa. 17 targets in a game, and this dude got freaking 25 targets in the span of 8 weeks or whatever it was. I'm like, you can't expect a player to develop like that, because he has to be a superstar every single time that you see him in those 25 targets. Like, he has to make a miracle play for you to appreciate what he is and develop. Like, that's crazy to me.
I mean, so I'll say this. I like Tyler Johnson in college. He has had some mental lapses during the games, but it fits your point of, listen, I mean, you can't, I know you only get limited opportunities. That's something Tom Brady says. When you get on the field, you got to show what you can do. Some guys, it's harder for them. The transition is, you got to get game ready. No one's like a six man. This isn't basketball. You don't have a mentality. Some of these guys just don't have it. So maybe Tyler Johnson is one of those that just gets better as the game goes on. You don't know. Maybe that is it. He doesn't have the deep speed as some of these other guys. Doesn't block as well as Chris Godwin does, but not many people do. But he just does a lot of little things good. I I'm not that upset about him. I just don't think he's up to par of what other fans think. I'm a huge fan of Scotty Miller. I think he doesn't get used at all. And when Brady had him early on in this first year, he looked freaking fantastic. What the hell
Then he
happened?
got pushed to the side because we had to have Antonio Brown because Chris Godwin had an injury for a couple of weeks, and then we pushed what's the name? We pushed Brown, and Brown basically took all the snaps to get acclimated. They literally pushed him the ball to get him acclimated in the offense.
Because he was talking a lot, probably. But that's another thing. So I heard another podcast today, them saying, "Oh, our wide receiver number 3 position. What are we going to do?" Someone's mentioning Jarvis Landry, and then someone's like, "Oh, well, he doesn't fit our mold, but Juju Smith-Schuster does." I'm like, that dude is either a 1 or a 2 on a team. You're trying to put a 1 or a 2 in our number 3. So
Well,
are we just literally going to? We think we're still like the monster team or the Pro Bowl team? Like what?
we did it a season ago. Well, we did it with
But that was
Antonio Brown, so that's the expectation now.
No one wanted him, and he's not going to get anywhere to go now. So that's why I think it is. Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to sign for $1 million or 3, whatever the hell AB got. So it just blows my mind. People think, yeah, that'll fit. That's going to fit right on in there. That fits number 3.
I mean, if it's a name that people recognize, they start playing fantasy football in Tampa. They start playing Tampa fantasy football, and any name they recognize, they think that, Oh, and also we have Tom Brady, so everybody's going to want to play with Tom Brady for free. Nah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work like that at all. Another point I want to make too, man, before we get off the whole world of free agency and being able to bring some of these guys back. I have a list of things I don't like about what Jason Light has done while in his time in Tampa. I mean, but I've always commended him on the stuff that I have liked and the things that I felt were like really solid and really good. The 2018 draft was one. Another thing that we talking about is bringing Carlton Davis back and some of these other cats. I hate that you had to use a franchise tag on Chris Godwin because I really don't think that the Bucs are in a position or we're in a position to be playing 2 wide receivers like number 1 wide receivers, and that's exactly what the case is with Godwin. He's a top 15 paid wide receiver right now, and we also got a top 5 highest paid wide receiver in Chris and Mike Evans. But the one thing I will say about whatever was happening with the Bucs cap and Jim and Jason Light, the hardest thing to do, I think, when it comes to building an NFL team and keeping an NFL team together, the hardest thing to do when it comes to your young players, one of the biggest obstacles you have to deal with is success. These guys have all won. These 2018 draft picks, these young cats, these cats have all won a Super Bowl already. Yeah. There's nothing left to do except for go and chase money. There's nothing left to do but go and chase money. So you won a Super Bowl. You now have the chance to go out and get the biggest bag you can possibly get for the next 3 to 4 years. Whatever it is that's happening in Tampa, whatever that pitch that Jason Light and his team is working on that got Carlton Davis back, he deserves a round of applause for, because Carlton Davis walked, I thought it would have been one of the biggest mistakes that could have happened this offseason. It would have completely ruined the nucleus of talent that the Bucs had started a few years ago. Had your best cornerback walked out the door because you franchise tag your number 2 cornerback for some reason. But thank goodness Jason Light put whatever spin on whatever he did to get Carlton Davis back and what he's doing to get some of these other cats back. I know a lot of it has to do with the possibility of playing with Brady for some of them, but for the most part, these young cats that we got, especially on this defense, it's a money pitch.
Well, that's something also that's cool that you hear, like the Bucs media on YouTube, on everywhere, on Twitter, all social media. They're good. I mean, even their interviews, they're scouting, they're interviewing the scouts, and even them, all of them are one team. They have one. They all say the same damn thing. Like we're looking for an individual that fits our mold of not just on the field, but personality, a leader, a guy that knows what they want. And they're doing that. I mean, Carlton Davis, all these guys blend together well, and they like to be. I think they're valuing winning over money right now, even though they're getting paid. It's just not astronomically paid like Christian Kirk got paid, which is stupid.
Was it like a $95 million? What was that?
Stupid. A guy that hasn't done jack shit. He hasn't got a 1,000-yard season, but he's getting paid. It's just funny. Even Jalen Ramsey's like, damn, maybe I should be a wide receiver. I shut these guys down. They could still get paid more than me.
Maybe they thought they were getting Captain Kirk. I don't know what the hell they did. That was a huge. They must have thought they were buying something major.
Fine. But I mean, hey, if someone's going to pay you that, why the hell not? But I mean, that's again, Carlton Davis. There was legal tampering period. People were calling him. And he still chose a 4-year, $84 million. That's stupid. Stupid.
84 max for 84 for Christian Kirk. Yeah. I remember him I think he was at Texas Tech. No, Texas A&M. And I swear to you, I don't remember him since. Like I don't know what I've been missing, but I've not seen Christian Kirk blow me out of the water when it comes to
SMB one game when we played the Cardinals. But I think Dean ended up winning us that game with that interception at the end. But I mean, it's just not worth it. But going on, that was just Light. Light has, to me,
has he absolved himself from his past sins when it comes to his drafting and his free agency? You think that the Super Bowl win and some of these other moves so far has absolved him of all the harsh criticism for him?
I think Jason Light has learned throughout the process. Like early on, I think he was kind of like Lovie Smith's kind of puppet.
That first year, I think 100% he was. And I honestly, I think he was 100% on his thumb because he didn't have control of the roster until Lovie Smith got fired, which I also, in my mind, think Jason Light has something to do with.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
a smart move, though.
Like he keeps getting better and quicker to disregard. Okay, I made a mistake. Let me move on from it. He's not ashamed to kind of the kicker debacle, even though he got rid of a kicker that literally won the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah.
Matt Gay, but he moved on to a guy that did win him a Super Bowl and Suckup. Does he move on again? Suckup's can't really kick a 50-yarder, barely kicking 40-yarders now. And if he makes a field goal in that Rams game, we probably are in the lead at the end of that game. So does he manage that better? Because they got a guy in the practice squad that can kick bombs and nothing but good reviews about. But I mean, I think he's made a lot of good changes and consistency in his scouting department and contractual, like everything on the top, the head of a franchise. He's doing the right things, and I think he doesn't get the notoriety, and everyone only sees, oh, he drafted kicker, second round.
Yeah,
it's a big go-to.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, again,
the super chat really quick first. Always like to touch on these super chats when someone brings it in.
Got
Charles Jensen, right? If you want to read about a player the Bucs drafted in 1982 that did not have it between the ears, look up Booker Reese. That was a huge debacle. Because talking about Tyler Johnson not having it between the ears. That's why he's dropping the ball sometimes. So I will look up that Booker Reese. I
remember that. I remember the name Booker Reese and people talking about him so not handsomely. People talked about the Booker Reese pick just being one of the worst of him as a player being one of the worst.
Oh, is he in jail now? Is that what's going on?
Who? Booker Reese?
Booker Reese. I Googled him. there's a picture of a guy like sitting in jail. And there was, I'll read about him later. Let's keep this going on. What's outside leverage YouTube? Get on there.
It's just outside leverage. My page on YouTube. I'm not sure which one you're looking at, but yeah, outside leverage on YouTube and website and all that good stuff. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. Yeah, but so a lot of other people are wanting draft questions and stuff like that.
Yeah, let's talk draft.
First round, I think you and I agree both. Let's get some pass rushers in there, whether it be an edge rusher or an interior defensive lineman that can get after it. Like we did a Devontae Wyatt review. He's
from Georgia. Yeah,
the best one to me. I know everyone knows Jordan Davis, but this dude, he's got it. And if he makes it down 27, which Plus and I looked it up, the first defensive tackle was taken in the second round last year.
Yeah. I thought that was a mistake too, because we talked about some of the guys that I liked. And I thought that were going to be. I said in a couple of years, people are going to look back and say that those players are, were overlooked.
So you first round, what do you think we should do? What should we go attack?
For me, I mean, I don't even know if I should call it first round or what have you, but I think the first plane of attack for the Bucs in that draft is to, like you said, go at the defensive line. The Bucs run a 3-4 defense, and right now we only have the middle of that 3-4 defense with Vita Vea. We need a guy who can come in and be a starter level player at the defensive line position, whether it's defensive end or defensive tackle. Obviously, if we look at how our roster was shaped, we had defensive tackles at defensive end. And this 3-4 alignment that Todd Bowles runs. Prior to the last couple of seasons, and Ndamukong Suh wasn't playing in a 3-4 defense. He was a 4-3 guy. So we got to find players, plural players, who can play in a 3-4 defense, and you don't have to be a guy who played 3-4 in college. You just have to be a good defensive player or a good defensive tackle with some versatility to you. So for me, it's going to be defensive line first and foremost in the draft.
I agree with that. Like just said it myself, but I mean, to me, also we're still really early on in free agency. I mean, they haven't even been able to sign the contracts yet.
And there's not until Wednesday at noon.
Right? There's still, to me, options on defensive line that you can sign in the latter half of free agency. Maybe tier 2 type of guys, tier 3. Hopefully veterans that will want to play with a Tom Brady. But then again, that's something you don't like, getting in the way of the development of players. And
I mean, if you're talking about looking at a veteran, I mean, the one thing I don't mind, and this is something I actually applauded Jason Light for a couple of years ago in 2018 when he signed what's my guys from not Seattle, when he signed Bo Allen. And he signed whatever the guy, it was Bo Allen and one other player, I forget who they were. Was that?
Clint McDonald?
When they signed Clint McDonald and Bo Allen, everybody was like, well, we don't need to draft a defensive tackle. We don't need to draft defensive line. I'm like, no, I think Jason Light is smart this year. I think he realized he had to actually pay for depth. So I don't mind paying for depth. I just don't want to be paying for players who are depth for from some other team, some rotational player from some other team that come and play him to be a starter in Tampa. Like, that makes zero sense to me. And that's what the Bucs had been doing the previous couple of seasons. I remember they brought in Clinton McDonald, and they had brought in Clinton McDonald and another couple of guys who were rotational players elsewhere, and then they came in and they were starters next to Gerald McCoy.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. Like, you can't saddle Gerald McCoy with this kind of talent. They're good guys, good players, but come on. Get him somebody who's on his level so that he can actually make some, do some damage. I don't want to see that happen to Vita Vea.
And hopefully, I mean, we've been saying that for years now. So let's see what happens. It's still looking at last year's debacle. Yeah, it was the lines. We lost on the lines. I think that's something that they're both saying, Jason Light and BA. Like, he even mentioned we need to get faster inside.
Yeah, somebody with pass rush ability.
Hopefully it's something that they're all looking at and keying in on, but you never know. The draft falls, it's the way it falls.
Hey, before I go on, I apologize. This may be the third time I mentioned Gerald McCoy, but I go back when I have to go back to when Vita Vea first went down against Chicago a couple seasons ago. And one of the very first things I'd seen, like like 2 weeks after, Scott Smith of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were doing like the little live live video deals with he and other hosts. I forget her name, Casey, and and he was like, well, you got to start wondering, like, if the Bucs had like a defensive lineman who was like more adept at pass rushing, something like maybe somebody like Gerald McCoy who could step in. I started cracking up. I'm like, oh, the guy that we got rid of. You think we should have? You think if we had a better pass rusher like him, then we'd be in a better position when Vita Vea went down. We'd be in a better pass rush world. I'm like, that's just hilarious to me. But and Dominic Sue came in. He had been productive, really a really good guy for Vita Vea his time here. But that versatility of being a actual pass rusher, somebody who's like quick off the ball, to go along with the likes of a Vita Vea, who's a powerhouse and can take on double teams and so forth. I just think that's necessary. It's necessary to have a guy who has like that level of talent, or at least who can get to that level of talent at some point.
I fully agree with that. I mean, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's going to manage the offense. You don't need firepower to the extent that everyone thinks you need. You don't need Juju Smith-Schuster as third option. Get yourself a defense that can prevent people from scoring, and get a guy that can help out your beast in the middle you just paid, and let's get after it. I mean, defense wins championships. Tom Brady will manage it enough, not turn the ball over, and get you where you need to be. So, I mean, that's my kind of 2 cents on that.
No, I mean, you're 100% correct, but I think a lot of cats, again, like I think we kind of mentioned earlier, because Tom Brady requested, I guess damn near demanded, Antonio Brown come in. I think that's what people are starting to look at. Like, the Bucs have to have a 3-headed monster at wide receiver. That's what I think. What a lot of people are kind of looking at now. I don't think that's the case. That's why we started looking at wide receiver with the number 1 or the first draft pick earlier this season, or earlier, a couple of weeks ago. Like, if the Bucs were to pick a wide receiver with the first draft pick, I probably would. Yeah, I would kick a puppy. I would. It would be bad.
Rightfully so. Rightfully. I don't mean to endorse it, but it'd be a bad idea. But
yeah, I don't agree.
Yeah,
I just don't agree with it.
But there's plenty more offseason to talk. There's more signings. Hopefully, Jordan Whitehead kind of falls into place. I mean, William Golson, Sue, they're all free agents, so we still got to see who else is going to filter in and sign back or go to another team. But I mean, there's a whole lot of other questions I want to get to, but can't do it now. We're running out of time. But other than that, Robert Green, let everyone know where they can find you. Where's your stuff at? Where can they find you on Twitter, socials, all that good stuff?
Yeah, man, appreciate it again. First and foremost, thanks for even having me on, man. Mike Pless checked me in with me and asked me if to jump on. Obviously, you and I have been talking earlier about some of all the stuff that we have been talking about in our private chat via Twitter about all the things that was going on, and like, this deserves a podcast and or a bunch of articles and so forth. But keep checking in with Real Bucs Talk. All the guys who've been following them for a while. That's a big deal. Please keep up with those guys. If you want to check in with me, I'm at The Outside Leverage on Twitter. Also at Robert Green on Twitter. Real name Robert Green. I also have my podcast, which is kind of been inactive as the last season or so. I'm trying to get back to it. It's been a weird year for me. But you can check me out again just on our Facebook and Twitter at The Outside Leverage. And God willing, I'll be back in and talking with fellow Bucs fans, along with Mike Pless and Mr. Ramirez here, and keeping the conversations going and trying to keep an honest conversation and being objective about a lot of stuff that we're seeing out in this Bucs world, including all the coverage that's go along with it. So, again, keep on checking in with Real Bucs Talk. I'll be in the chat with along the rest of you guys and checking in with these cats on their videos weekly and see how everything goes there. But that's pretty much it for me, man.
No, other than that, no, thank you very much, Robert. I mean, you always bring a different perspective, a smart, educated perspective, too, to be exact. And guys, thank you for everything in the chat. You bring out the show every time you guys bring out the comments. Literally, you make the show. I've said that many times before. But yeah, Plus and I, we're going to get back in the film room, getting this draft stuff going. And whatever free agent we sign, you better expect we're going to have a video on them, too. But on that, guys, thank you again. And with that, go Bucs, and until the next one.